I'm all right.
We're live in 5.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Won't you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion is gotta go. Yeah.
Hey everybody, we are live. It's August 5th, 2012. Joining Martin Wagner this week, I'm Matt Dillahunty. This is the Atheist Experience from Austin, Texas. Come to you from Public Access Television, the Public Access Television studio here in Austin.
Channel Austin.
It's a live call-in television program. They'll have the number up for you very shortly. The lines are actually already full.
That just happened somehow.
I think it might be because people knew the number before the show started.
Oh, you think?
I know.
Our viewers are very clever in that way.
Previously, people had asked us, send us emails saying, hey, what's the telephone number so that I can call in? And once upon a time, we just didn't give the number out.
Correct.
And it's because this is the Public Access studio. We're not the only ones who do a show here, and we didn't want people calling in and disturbing other people's show. If you saw some of the other shows that are done live here, you'd realize that it might be a big annoyance for them to say, I'm calling for the Atheist Experience. And their show is not close to that. But the thing that we've done is to encourage people to visit the website, make sure we're actually streaming live before you call in, because there's a chance. Like there was no show last week; it was a fifth Sunday, and we don't do shows on the fifth Sunday due to some kind of policy around here. It's not a religious policy; it's just
they've always done it. It's always been like that.
Who knows? I don't know. So, did you have anything in particular you wanted to address quickly, or are we going straight to?
You know what I was going to do? I'm going to have to do this next time I'm on. But a really good friend of mine, she left me when she moved out of state some textbooks that she had when she was a child. She grew up with a very fundamentalist religious father and went for a couple of years to a Christian school and still had some of her textbooks. And she left them for me. And I've looked over them and you're like, oh boy. And so I keep, Martin, remember Martin? So one of these days, I was going to do it today, but I thought it would be fun to do just a very brief show and tell with those. Because there are people around who want those to be just the school textbooks for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
In Louisiana especially, they want to give you vouchers so that you can learn some of the crap that's in these books. So I thought I would bring an example of what Republicans and the Christian right would like for your kids to be learning in school. It's pretty impressive. So that was it, but I blew it again because I was real proud of myself. I'm like, I'm going to the studio early today. I usually run in 10 minutes to airtime. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot those.
Well, if you wait much longer, you won't have to dig back through old textbooks. The new ones will look just like them.
Very true, yeah. They'll just sort of dig all those out of the warehouse and...
So you want to
no, they'll have to submit new textbooks to keep up with all the current science and knowledge.
Coming out of the Institute for Creation Research.
Exactly, yes. All of this research that they do at the Discovery Institute that's just revolutionizing everything that we know.
I know. It's going to turn the world upside down.
I'm telling you.
All right, you want to get to calls?
Let's get to calls.
Hey, we got Mark in Bristol, Connecticut. How are you?
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
How you guys doing? Matt, Martin, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Good.
I'll actually tell you guys I'm a huge fan of the show, Matt. I just caught one of your debates again on, in the debate you said there were humans are basically like very self-centered, very egocentric about our belief in God. I thought it was an awesome debate.
Yep. Which debate was that?
It was a debate where you and JD, I think his name is JD...
JT Everhard. Yeah, that was at the North Texas Secular Student Alliance Conference. JT and I did a team debate. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I've been following your show on YouTube for a while now, and I think it's an awesome show. I do believe in God. I do believe in a God, and but I call myself post-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I know you guys may have heard some of this stuff before. It might sound kind of new agey and stuff, and I know, but my working hypothesis on the whole overall is, in a lot of ways, atheists are the best friends that Christians have.
Okay.
They might disagree, but
Why is that?
Well, you got to figure, you know, I mean, I take a very Jungian approach. I take a very Jungian approach to my belief system, which is I believe that the whole overall of humanity moves as like a whole, and sometimes we have to pull ourselves. Sometimes parts of that humanity kicking and screaming to evolve forward. Mm-hmm. So what you're really making these Christians do is define what they call God, you know, and in a lot of ways you're pointing out the glaring flaws in their belief system, you know. Like in a lot of ways, Matt, you're right. The Old Testament is exceedingly immoral in a lot of things. I heard you ask somebody one time that if you were supposed to go to hell, because of like violations from the Old Testament, would this person be okay with it? And as I'm listening to the person going, oh well, you know, I'm waffling. Well, choose that. Well, you know, if God says it's okay, then I guess it's okay. I'm like, no. If you were to go to hell, Matt, if they said you know, the Christians would say that you go to hell, I'd be like, no. You see, I fight for you.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
I'm kind of opposed to that too.
Well, you know, it's just one of those kind of things where, and this is the thing too, I think Christians too often forget too that like the Bible's rich in stories of actually like Moses or whatever standing up to God and going, no, you know, like say for instance when he was going to kill all the all the Hebrews in the desert after they worshipped the idol, and Moses actually got pissed at God and said, wait a minute, you made me go through all this shit that I went through to get the Hebrews out of Egypt, and now you're going to kill them in the desert. So he actually changed God's mind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
I'm just wondering. I hate to do this because you're such, you know, a nice guy, fan of the show, making points. Why do you believe in a God, and what kind of God do you believe in?
Well, this is why I call it my hypothesis, Matt. I believe in a creator, yes, but I base it upon, and I know that you wholly disagree with this, but upon what I will call peripheral evidence. You know, based upon the subjective experiences of what everybody else is, not everybody else, but I mean.
I find it interesting that you call it a hypothesis, because a hypothesis is a proposition, and we don't believe hypotheses.
I know you don't. That's why I'm calling it a hypothesis. The thing is, Matt,
No.
You're not understanding what he's
You're not understanding. You're calling it a hypothesis, and you're saying you believe it. And
yes.
And that's not the point at which belief is established. Hypothesis is a proposition. Belief is established afterwards.
Okay, I'm sorry, Matt. The only reason why I was calling it my hypothesis was because I was trying to be fair. Because I've heard a lot of people, they throw around theory all the time. And theory, and the problem with people's idea of what they think theory is they accept the truth when a lot of the times, I mean, like say the theory of evolution, the Big Bang Theory, that is scientifically proven to be true, you know.
Sure.
And it is a theory.
I don't object to you saying that you have a God hypothesis. There are tons of God hypotheses.
Right.
My objection is to saying that it's a hypothesis and you believe it because.
I don't mean to sound self-contradictory, man. I'm not. My theory is what I believe in God, but like I said, I base it upon, as I said, it's peripheral. It's from, you know, what I've studied, what I read, what my personal experiences are. It's not like, you know, like you said, it's not like this supreme deity that's come down and dinged me on the forehead and said, you know, you are aware now. It's also hope too, Matt. You know, like you said, you touch upon some basic things with the atheist experience where, you know, part of it is our fear.
It sounds to me, Mark, like you, just based on what you're describing, it's like you have had experiences, things you've read, things you've observed, whatever. But it seems to me, just based on what you're describing, if I were in your shoes, the best that I would be able to say would not be that I do believe in a God, but and then give whatever justifications for that. All I would be able to say would be like, okay, I can see that there are some scenarios in which a God might be plausible as an explanation, but I would not be at that point ready to yet say, and that's what I believe. I would only be able to say, yeah, you see what I'm saying? So,
very much so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're trying to kind of, you're putting the cart before the horse and the way certain things are ordered.
We talked about deism before, and there are individuals who, I think maybe Dawkins even called deism sexed up atheism.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was pantheism that was sexed up.
Pantheism
was sexed up atheism. you know, and I've talked to and dealt with deists before, primarily at free thought conventions. At free thought conventions, you have atheist agnostics, and you also have a deist contingent, and you know, you're obviously, you know, you're going to believe whatever you're convinced of.
Right.
The thing that I've never found a deist who can explain why they're actually convinced of this, and without trying to belittle what anybody's position is. In every single time that I've had these conversations with the deist, it's either come to find out that they don't actually believe, or that they're so enamored of an idea of God that they're not willing to let that last bastion of it go. Because most of them would believe in a creative God, a creator God who doesn't interact with reality in any way. I don't know if that's the kind.
No, actually, this is the thing. You know, to add a little caveat, Matt. You know, I've heard you actually say that the thing is, and this is the thing that I think is actually very apropos. You know, it's actually excellent about the atheist, at least from what I've come to understand about the atheist position. You say that a person hasn't presented evidence for a proof of God, which is, so you reject the evidence, which I think is exactly what I mean. You reserve deciding whether or not you think there's a God until someone offers proof. That's kind of my point. You know, I would call that kind of a person a seeker or a question, because you haven't rejected the idea outright of a God. You said that no proof exists that, or at least to this date, that one does exist. And until proof does actually exist, you're going to reserve judgment, which is it's kind of what I mean. It's like, say, for instance, and I know that you might accuse me of cross-cultural thinking too, but say, for instance, Taoism. With Chinese Taoism, one of the maxims in Taoism is, if you can name the Tao, you don't know the Tao, which means that...
Which is a deepity. I mean, let's be honest here. Let's be honest. That's a deepity. That's what Dan Dennett would call a deepity. To the extent that it's true, it's trivial, and to the extent that it's meaningful, I got it backwards. To the extent that it is significant in its meaning, it's not true, and to the extent that it's true, it's trivial. Oh, it's sophistry. I mean, what does that mean? If you to claim that you know the Tao, you don't know the Tao.
What it means is it puts. See, the thing is, a lot of the times when people define God, what they do is they say they define God in a particular way. They think God is a particular thing. Well, they put themselves inside of a fence, and all that they have to do now is defend that position. Anything that's on the outside of it is not what they believe God is, and anything that's on the inside of it is what they believe God is. My point is, that's like a very, it's like a deadening concept. It takes the very dynamic learning movement, evolutionary concept out of it. For Taoists, the idea of saying that if you can name the Tao, you don't know the Tao, is putting the student or the person who's actually trying to learn in a perpetual state of pushing themselves to try and understand what they want to define. This is why the atheists are the best friends that Christians have.
Yeah, and let's get back to that, just so that we're not because we're starting to kind of, you know, this is dragging on a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just getting back to the original point that the question is presented to our screeners, which is that, you know, to the extent that we are helping Christians understand and think about their beliefs, perhaps in a way that they've never had to do before. Yeah. I'm great with that. I think that's awesome. Now, and it is their choice whether or not they think about their beliefs and decide to retain their beliefs or question them, but at least they are no longer believing unquestioningly, which is what religion wants them to do. So if that's a service we're providing Christians, I'm really cool with it. I think that's great.
Of any stripe, but, you know, not just Christians, but on this subject of the idea of believing something that's not defined. That is a complete absurdity. I don't know how anybody could claim to believe something that they don't understand, comprehend, and haven't labeled in some way. To me, it sounds entirely dishonest. It's like the people who want to claim that they're a Christian and a skeptic, or a religious person and a skeptic, and you can be both. You can be both of these, but you can't be truly skeptical about your religious claims and maintain them.
I'm not trying to be dishonest.
No,
he's talking general.
I'm talking in the general sense. You can't do that and actually maintain those religious beliefs, because if you could, then you could make a demonstration of their truth, which is what skepticism demands. And some of them are dishonestly saying, well, my beliefs don't make any testable claims, and therefore skepticism has nothing to say about my beliefs. And that's false. what skepticism would say about claims that are untestable is that by virtue of being untestable, you cannot possibly have sufficient evidence to justify belief, and therefore you should not.
I watch your show enough to realize you guys go over a lot of these different things, and I'm not pushing anything on anyone. It's my own individual belief. I mean, in a lot of ways,
I understand you're not pushing.
I've heard you guys say that if a person believes in a God, that's okay, as long as they're not pushing it on anyone else. Or,
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
Sorry. I understand that you're not pushing. I applaud you all day long for not pushing your beliefs. But to say that if somebody believes something, it's okay just if they're not pushing it on to other people is false. It matters whether or not their belief is actually true, because every false belief that you put into your head means that you are on a road to potentially believing more false things. If you are believing in a God for bad reasons and you don't think that that can affect other decisions that you make,
but you don't even know the reasons why I believe in a God, and you're assuming it's for bad reasons.
Well, I asked you what the reasons were, and you didn't offer any, but I'm going. I'm going.
It's peripheral, but see, the thing is, let's say, for instance, in correlation to how I live my life. Now, you guys say, for instance, as atheists, that you're for, like, say, for instance, helping people and say, for helping the homeless and feeding the homeless, as you said, and stuff. And I said I believe in a very Jungian approach that we all, as a humanity, move together. You know. So my belief in a God ties completely into the idea that we as a humanity move together. We have to help each other along. We have to bolster each other.
How is the God?
Accepting the Lord Jesus Christ or Muhammad or whatever.
How is the God belief relevant?
Evolutionary level.
I mean, why does how is the God belief? How does that have utility there? I mean, why is that a necessary ingredient to moving humanity forward?
It's something that you don't necessarily believe in. We're ultimately all going to end up in the same place. But as what I believe. I mean, say for instance, a Jewish mystical belief is that the world will not end. I know that's completely outside of what you guys,
It's outside of science.
Until the last human.
The world's going to end. I got news for you.
Yeah, someday it will happen.
We're all supposed to evolve upward together,
We're not going to. I guess we're not going to get anywhere because I'm baffled at this kind of this line of thought. Because beliefs matter, and if your beliefs aren't true, it doesn't matter how much good you can find in them or how much benefit you can draw from them. It matters whether or not they're true. There's nothing about a God belief that is required in order to do good. So when you talk,
I never said that.
I know.
No, but the implication was that this is where you draw this from, and that this is a good thing. And my point is that you can draw this without the false claims.
Right, and I never said that you couldn't. I just called and tell you guys what I believe.
I understand. And what you're saying, though, is that this extra baggage of claims that are not demonstrably true isn't a bad thing. And that's the part I don't get.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, you don't think that there's anything wrong with having false beliefs? You don't think that your beliefs have impact on your other beliefs?
Yeah, they do, but thus far they've served me well, and I haven't hurt anyone. Like, you guys haven't gone out and murdered anyone or raped anybody or, Well,
it doesn't even have to be that sort of a thing. It's just, what
Here, let me give you
are you
the
drawing
easy
your
example.
information?
Let me give you the easy example. Every deist I've ever talked to has come up with this first cause. They've bought into the first cause argument, which is flawed. And this has led them to the conclusion that a God is the most reasonable explanation for the origin of the universe.
I know that. I heard your other argument for a minute. I've watched the show for a while.
Yes, but the other people that are listening to this conversation haven't.
Oh, okay, all right.
This is the trend. And so for the deists that I run into, who say that they believe this for this reason, there is a consequence to this false belief, and that is they are accepting a fallacy. Your brain is not, beliefs don't live in a vacuum. We both agree that they impact other beliefs, but you seem to be okay with having a belief that is not demonstrably true, and that's the part that's getting to me.
I know you sound so angry, man.
I'm not at all. I didn't
mean to waste your time.
I
thought it was a good show.
Fuck.
That's all.
I'm not at all angry. Some of the frustration is about the problems with the phone line and the fact that evidently people can't hear when we're talking. What I'm frustrated with is that I asked questions and I got no answers. I mean, you say that you believe.
Man, I base it on peripheral.
What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, see, that's what you're not.
That is not an argument. That is not an argument. It's not an explanation. It's barely a response.
Yeah, it's this vague term that has no clear definition.
You told me that you have been to a particular place, okay? And I hope to go to that place someday too. putting my ducks in a row, as it were, to try and get to going to that place.
What place?
What place are you talking about?
Can you speak in specifics instead of this
Let's
vagaries?
say, for instance, what Buddha might have talked about, or what Lao Tzu might have talked about, or Jesus might have talked about a particular state or a particular goal. Okay, when they put these ideas out there, what they're doing for the student is saying, okay, I'm acting as a signpost and I'm pointing you in a direction. So you're trying to move towards a state of consciousness. That's what I'm talking about. It's based upon what these peripheral teachers who have come before me have laid out as signposts and pointed in the direction for humanity to move towards.
What?
That's the most succinct way that I could put it.
What the hell makes
you...
you...
An example of Jesus or an example of Buddha, okay, I'll use those examples. But for me, they're signposts pointing in a direction that humanity or the individual human is supposed to move towards, if I'm going to use the term, to become enlightened someday.
Okay.
And it's an active process, and it's a daily process. It's something that you do.
Okay. So you're seeking a form of enlightenment. We got it.
What makes you think that this is true or worthy of seeking? Because right now what you're telling me is that you have this hope that maybe these guys were talking about something real, and therefore you're going to do what you can do to try to achieve this thing that you can't demonstrate is real, and that this is justification for your belief in God. Do you not see how flawed that thinking is?
No.
All right, then.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
Thank you for calling anyway, Mark. We appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
I hope there's a God, so I believe there's a God.
Yeah.
If you can't spot the fallacy in there, no wonder you can't see the false beliefs.
I understand, people have sought enlightenment in one form or another for, all the millennia.
I'm fine with enlightenment about reality.
Yeah, just understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and have good reasons for it.
Yeah, this reminds me of the...
And Mark, and we weren't like, trying to be dicks to you, Mark. Understand, we weren't yelling at you or being angry. We're trying to, like you said in your original question, about making Christians think about and understand what it is they believe. That's exactly what we were just trying to do with you.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to get at. That's all. It wasn't personal, so don't take it that way.
It's this fascination people have with
the transcendent,
contemplatives and metaphysics and but maybe there is something. Maybe it's not heaven like Jesus talked about it, but maybe it's some grander state, and maybe when I die, my consciousness can go off and explore the universe. And it's nonsense. It's woo. There's no reason to. Now, maybe it is true. I'm not here to say that it's false, but if you're going to say that this is what's governing your decisions and your beliefs, sure would be useful to find out if it's actually true. And I'm not opposed to exploring those things.
I've always just thought it was more sensible to think, all right, we've maybe got, if we maintain our health and live good lives, 70, 75 years on average.
Yeah.
So, make that time, instead of spending all of that time, wishing for whatever version of a pie in the sky that you're hoping will come at some point, make this life, make that very brief time the best life it can be. That's always seemed to be a much better approach to enlightenment, in my estimation.
It also bothers me that, in this day and age, granted, we don't know everything about the brain, but we're learning so much about the brain.
Yeah.
And this idea of an afterlife is, at this point, pretty much a dead issue. We know
not to the Templeton Foundation, who just
Yes.
gave somebody $5 million. It's just, imagine having that kind of money to piss away on frivolities. It's like, $5 million to study life after death. Now, how exactly do you study life after death?
I don't know.
Wheel a bunch of cadavers in the room and be like, all right, so...
They could have given me the money, and I could have saved them a lot of time, because what we already know about the brain and identity is enough to know that nothing that makes me is going to survive my death in any meaningful sense.
I would have done it for $1 million. I would have saved them $4 million, given them just as factual.
We don't want science going to the lowest bidder.
Oh.
I mean, I'll take the $5 million, and I'll investigate claims of the afterlife.
All right. Shall we?
All right. Sorry,
move
Brent
on.
in Costa Mesa. How you doing?
Brent, you're on.
Good. Thanks for having me again. I called in last week.
No, you didn't. There wasn't a show last week.
Or
The week before.
Got it. All right. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, aside from what we talked about last week, I have I'm glad I called in today. It seems like we're talking about beliefs and why we believe in things today, the common theme of the show. And I'd like to ask you guys a question, preferably both if you answered it, so I kind of understand a little bit about the host. But do you guys believe in the Big Bang?
Martin says no, and I say that the phrasing of your question, believe in, is problematic And there's a difference between believe in and believe that. And I am happy to say that I believe that the Big Bang model is the best current scientific explanation of the information that we have.
And I was basically going to say that too. I accept that science, that the Big Bang cosmology is the accepted scientific model at the moment. See, it's all about, you know, the word choice and, you know, appropriateness of, you know,
Yeah,
a belief
I kind of
versus
appreciate what you guys are saying, because no matter what, if you say no, you can't be wrong, right? I mean,
well, I mean, you know, because, you know,
truth.
believe is one of those words that gets, you know, that gets thrown around in all kinds of inappropriate contexts. That's all.
Well, I just want to make that one distinction over believe in and believe that, because one of them kind of plays towards religious metaphysical language. The other, when I say I believe something, all I'm saying is that I accept this proposition is true or likely true. And so if you ask me, do you believe that the Big Bang model is the most accurate? Yes. And, you know, it's been, you know, it's a model that made predictions which were confirmed by observation.
It's just like when, you know, people ask us, well, do you believe in evolution? No. Evolution is a scientific theory, and scientific, you know, science by its nature doesn't ask you to believe things. It simply lays out evidence, you know, which you test, and then you either confirm or don't confirm, you know, and at no point does the kind of belief that religious people, I think, are thinking of when they ask us that question, it just doesn't come into play.
Well, I'm glad you guys answered in that way. So that'll kind of lead me into my next question. So what does, for you guys individually, lead you to believe in something? Like if I say something to you, or somebody you trust says something to you, what's the process in which you believe in it, where you can actually say that's a reality, or whatever you want to describe it?
Well, I think there's kind of a heuristic model that I've described before of the things that you evaluate. We do this fairly intuitively now. We tend to live our lives primarily based on inference and induction. Today's pretty much the same as yesterday. And so when I'm presented with a claim, one of the first things that happens is this something I already accept? Because then you're done. And then if it's not something you already accept, then there's the process of considering if I accept this, what does this change about everything else I accept? Is this consistent with my understanding of reality so far? There's also the consideration of what is the source of this information? Is this source generally reliable, or is there an ulterior motive or anything else? There's the evaluation of the supporting evidence that goes along with that as well. It's a complex thing that we do almost intuitively. We're comparing things to find out whether or not something seems plausible. Now, none of that leads up to what I would call absolute certainty. This is all about demonstrating some degree of certainty or some confidence level with the claim. And it's really hard to describe because the process is going to be a little different with different claims. And so if somebody tells me, oh, I just got a new pet puppy, that's very different from I just got a new pet dragon, or I just got a new pet fairy.
Yeah,
let me give you an example then, if I may. Let's just say I was to, you don't really know me, and I was to say that there's an elephant outside your guys' building right now. You wouldn't believe me, right? Here.
Well, outside our building?
Sure, yeah, outside your building. I'm just trying to come
all right, well, now,
okay,
let me just give you an idea of how I would evaluate that, all right? Now, an elephant is not some sort of bizarre, you know, trans-dimensional space creature, for one thing. So I'm like, well, all right, there could be an elephant outside the building for some reason. Maybe someone at this television studio is interviewing some, you know, it has a show, and he's interviewing some, like, circus trainer guy.
Barn Bailey Circus is in town, too.
Yeah, and so he brought his elephant over so they could get video of the elephant frolicking or doing elephant things, you know, and taking ginormous poops out in the field there. And so that could be a true thing. So what I might do is, really, there's an elephant out front? So I would go outside and I would look, and if there were no elephant out front, I would go, Brent, dude, why'd you tell me there was an elephant out front? And you'd go, ha ha ha, I was trolling you. But let's say, but that's a thing that is not exactly beyond the pale of reality. Now, if you were to say then something like, guys, there is an alien spacecraft out front. And be like, you know, now that would be a little, probably we would move a little bit quicker to, well, we'd probably be more likely to think, dude, you're trolling us. I mean, that would be probably the first thought, and not the second thought.
Hang on to that question.
Hang on,
appreciate that.
Brent,
Matt,
phones.
Brent, yeah.
I just put you on hold. I didn't hang up. I want to make one small clarification on that, and that is, no, I would not believe you, but that doesn't mean that I believe you're lying.
Okay. Okay, so, you know, you would probably not believe me, although it's in the realm of believability. one of the examples that he just said was, if I went out there and saw an elephant, then I would believe, right? Right, correct?
Well, we would want to check out your claim first, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we would not,
of course. You'd want to see it, was the example you...
And like Matt just gave, the nature of the claim, again, determines what degree of, just sort of immediate believability we give to it. This is why
what sort of evidence is required?
The axiom of, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. For example, if you were to tell us, guys, yesterday I had lunch with my girlfriend, we'd be like, okay, fine. We would see no reason to sort of be instantly skeptical of such a bland day-to-day kind of claim.
And it goes towards the risk thing, too.
Yeah,
if we believe you, what is the risk? Because it doesn't change my worldview.
But on the other hand, if you were to say that, well, guys, yesterday my girlfriend and I, strapped bottle rockets onto our backs and flew to Mars. Okay, see, there would be a bit more, instant skepticism with that one. See, extraordinary claims versus ordinary claims, it all depends on the nature of the claim and how that conflicts with simply what we know of day-to-day reality. So that's basic epistemology stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty good process to figure out what's real and not. I'm asking because you use the example of seeing the elephant is believing, and I think that we probably all know that looks can be deceiving, not only in ways of trickery with magic, but also in the ways of psychedelic drugs. And to comment on the psychedelic drug thing briefly. You can see something, you can smell something, you can imagine something or whatever. You can see something that's not there, and it's not necessarily a good way to prove something with the whole see, smell, feel, taste, or whatever method. And then keeping back to what Matt said about today being the same as yesterday. You've lived one life, right, Matt? I mean, that's what you believe. So
far.
How do you know that your current level of consciousness, which has been the consistent level of consciousness you've had your whole life, more or less, is the reality of the world? Like, how do you know that that's what you see is real?
First of all, when Martin said he'd go out to look, that wasn't to say that seeing alone is necessarily believing.
But the specific example that you gave was a thing that I could confirm with sight or not.
Reasonably. I mean, it could be first glance. It could look like an elephant, but it's not an elephant. Or it could be any number of things.
Anyway.
But the way that we know that our senses are not beyond, our brain is not beyond making errors about what our senses tell us. And so the confirmation of that, the reliability of that, I do not accept this idea that the senses are properly basic. They are basic by confirmation. That is why science doesn't depend on what one person has done in a lab. Right. It's about independent verification. And so if I walked outside and saw an elephant standing out there, one of the first things that I'd do is say, Martin, do you see that elephant? And we're getting confirmation that way. So it's not, I mean, the reason, you can't just go, oh, you guys say, hey, seeing is believing, because that's not the case.
Right.
It's every claim, this is why I said every claim is going to be a little bit different. But when we talk about the senses, for example, I have a can on the table that I can't show because it's got a product label on it. But let's say somebody gave me a glass of what appeared to be ice water and said, here's your ice water. Now, if we're at dinner after the show, by and large, I'm going to begin with the assumption that it is, in fact, ice water. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. I could be wrong. The trend has been that I get water. Now, if somebody says to me, do you believe that's water? Well, now all of a sudden, the nature of the situation has changed because now there's a reason for them to ask this, to question this natural assumption. I go, well, no, I don't believe that it's water, but I think it's probable that it's water.
And why are you asking that?
And so I use several senses. I can look at it; it appears clear like water, but hey, so is some very harmful things. I can see that it appears to be cold and there's condensation on there. And I taste it and it seems to taste like water. None of that. The problem that you seem to be trying to get to is one of absolute certainty. And absolute certainty is a complete red herring. I do not have to be absolutely certain about things. I'm absolutely certain about virtually nothing, just a handful of minor things like esoteric knowledge and labels and logical absolutes. That's it. Everything else is believed to some other degree of certainty. And that's why I said one of the things that I weigh when I'm weighing a claim is if I believe this and I'm wrong, what impact does that have on me?
And I think, was it Spinoza who said, would it be more incredible and amazing for the claim not for the claim not to be true than to be true? Yeah, that's a criterion. It'd be more miraculous if it were not true, this claim that I'm hearing, than if it were true. That's that's a criterion that he employed.
Anyway, your turn.
Your turn.
Okay. Well, no, I think you guys answered my question pretty accurately and slightly broadly.
Yes.
There's really not much to say when you can never be absolutely sure of anything, and I guess there's not the need to be absolutely sure of anything.
Most things we go into it with a reasonable degree of confidence.
Wrap up the belief system of an atheist, I'd say, and I hate to speak so broadly, but believing in something absolutely is impossible or illogical. So
depends on what we're talking about.
Based on either the five senses or the reassurance you would get from somebody else if they were seeing the elephant as well.
Well, I won't go so far as to say that there's nothing that you can know with absolute certainty, but I've already covered those things. But yes, by and large, epistemic claims about reality, and what is, by and large, absolute certainty is out the window.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys' time, and I look forward to watching the rest of the show.
Thanks, Brent.
Have a good day.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. As a reminder, those of us here at the show going to go to dinner afterwards at El Arroyo. Can't tell you what to do with that information, but I thought I'd let you know. And also, starting next week, we're probably going to be going to dinner somewhere else. And if you want,
somewhere good.
Yeah, somewhere you can, you can find out where as soon as we make a decision. It'll be on our webpage, at the blog, at Facebook, and you can, get all that information.
We will keep you all up to date.
We'll do what we can.
Our loyal viewers.
We got Susan in Dublin. How are you?
Hello, I'm 6 o'clock.
Hello?
Hello? Susan?
Hello?
Hi, you're on. You're on the air.
You're on the air. Susan?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, hi. Thanks for calling me back. Okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to be on?
Yes, you're on.
You're on live right now.
Yes. What's your question?
Okay, my question is, Curiosity is going to Mars. It's going to land there tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually, this morning, my time, I'm ringing from Ireland, and I'm just wondering, what do the Christians, theists, etc., think about that?
I don't know.
What do Christians think about the Mars lander landing tomorrow?
Well, possible life on Mars. The possibility of life on Mars.
I can't tell you what Christians think.
Yeah, I have no idea. Have you asked any that you know?
I have not, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just wondering, what would any of them say?
That's an interesting thought, because it would certainly, the discovery of alien life would cause them to have to rethink some things about where.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Bible. Yeah. There was a science fiction writer by the name of Arthur C. Clarke. He's responsible for 2001, a lot of famous stuff.
Yes, I know the name. Yeah.
He wrote a book some years ago. It was called The Fountains of Paradise, and one of the elements in that book was very similar too. He tended to recycle some themes, but the idea was that there was this highly advanced alien, probe coming to Earth, and part of the result of this was that when these aliens more or less announced that they had seen no evidence at all of any kind of divine presence in the universe, and they had in fact acquired actual knowledge of et cetera, then the result was that pretty much all religion in the world stopped. And I didn't really believe that. I think a lot of people tell you that the book took criticism for that, because what actually would have happened, I think, would have been that I can't really speak for other religions, but Christianity being the one I'm most familiar with, you would have the liberal Christians who would say, well, God has simply made other provisions for the salvation of these aliens.
Okay.
And fundamentalists would say, this is a tool of the devil come to tempt us away from our faith, right? But you wouldn't. I mean, you wouldn't just see this. I think so. I think Clarke was just sort of engaging in a bit of a pipe dream there.
Yeah,
but
he kind of underestimated the ability of
believers to rationalize and sort of
how passionately some people enjoy their own ignorance. We live in a world where there are people who seriously think that the Earth is flat and think that we haven't been to the moon. So whatever we uncover on Mars would have no impact on them. I remember during my childhood, the subject of aliens came up at church once. And what the pastor had said was that, well, maybe there is other life in the universe, but clearly they didn't sin. These are people who never suffered from original sin, so there's no need for them to be saved because God sent his son once to die for those of us on earth. And so these other civilizations that may have existed, they just existed sinlessly in the universe, which kind of...
So you don't think any other civilizations visited Earth, for example, from outer space?
Do I think civilizations have visited Earth? No.
I don't think there's convincing evidence of that.
You don't think that? No?
No, I don't.
No.
Consider what you're expected to believe if you accept that idea, and it'd be great, right? I mean, it would be really, really wonderful thing to discover. But
it should happen right now.
Yeah, but think of it. We're being, and especially when you talk to certain types of believers in those kinds of visitations and what they claim has happened. An alien civilization devotes an enormous amount of its budget to an intergalactic voyage. Now, assuming that the spaceship travels at nearly relativistic speeds, you're talking about a crew who are never going to go home again. They're never going to be able to see their families again because they'll all be dead. They're never going to be the very civilization that launched them could have died out in the intervening time that it took them flying it, because you can't go past light speed. But if you go almost light speed, you're talking about the time. It's bizarre, but your sense of time on board the ship is passing at a slower rate than what's going on outside. So what happens is these aliens are gone for good. They are leaving their home world forever. They're never going to see their loved ones. They're never going to see. They can't go back. And we're expected that they did this sacrifice simply so that they could turn up, hover around our planet, make some crop circles, kidnap some poor fool off on a farm somewhere to
cows.
or mutilate some cows, and then go run off and hide. It's just absolutely absurd. So
we lost her.
I guess she didn't like hearing what I had to say about that. But anyway,
it could just
be... So that's why all those stories are bullshit.
It's
It's
the time involved.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense. I mean,
just
think about how we haven't scanned hardly any portion of the universe. And we're just now getting to the point where we're identifying planets that are in a Goldilocks zone, for example. We can just barely detect them now. We have no way to get to them.
Yeah.
But we just barely at the point where we can detect those. If you expand our civilization out to the point where not only maybe we'll be able to detect these, but we might be able to visit them, I don't know that we'd ever come up with the budget for it because
and it's a one-way trip.
We're on a rock with limited resources.
Yeah.
And so actually our first priority in space travel and exploration should be finding a planet that we can move to.
Yeah. That would be it. It would be fleeing the home world for one reason or another, never to come back. It would be a colony that we are going to not see again.
Then when we build a network of planets and we have just seemingly unlimited resources, then we can go around and mess with the other people.
And the only real plausible way to do it would be something like a generation ship. But anyway, I'm getting off into geek territory there. But it's just people watch a lot of science fiction. They watch Firefly and Star Trek and Star Wars, and they see guys zipping from star to star like they're going to the grocery store and back.
Firefly takes place in a single system.
That's true. Yes, correct. I forget because Firefly
is awesome.
Firefly was the good science fiction show.
Yes.
But they think it's
just
noise. Going from planet and star to star is like going to the grocery store, and it's not.
Anyway, we lost our caller, and
we did. Either she just
we're heading down towards the end of the show. So is it Azar or Azar or?
Yes, Azar.
Azar, how you doing in New York?
You're feeding back. You're going to need to mute whatever needs muting in your room there.
It's actually muted.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess you just have an echoey room.
What do you got for us?
I'm trying to refine my beliefs, and my question is, how can a person be an atheist and agnostic at the same time?
Sure. If you go to ironchariots.org, that's a wiki that we put together. There's a whole article there on atheist versus agnostic. But atheism and theism address what you believe, and Gnosticism and agnosticism address what you know. Knowledge is a subset of belief. Therefore, you could be a Gnostic theist, an agnostic theist, and a Gnostic atheist or an agnostic atheist. And an agnostic atheist, to address the specifics of your question, is somebody who would say, I don't believe a God exists, but I don't know that no gods exist.
Just like an agnostic theist would be someone who would say, I can't prove to you for certain that a God exists, but I believe one does for reasons of my own.
Yeah.
And I think that if you talked to most believers, and they were honest to you, most even practicing Christians, they would have to say, yes, I am agnostic.
Now there are other definitions and uses of agnosticism, you know, but I don't really see that there's much of a problem there either, other than that they're useless. Because I don't really care what somebody claims they know. I care what they believe, because it's the beliefs that matter. We don't wait until we know things in order to act on them.
But belief is not a choice, right?
I would say that yes, belief is not a choice, not in a simple sense.
So it's not really useful to talk about having a belief or not. It's more important to talk about why people have beliefs or no beliefs.
Well, it's important what beliefs people have. I agree with you that it's more important to talk about why, but you can't talk about the why until you talk about the what. And so somebody has to tell you what they believe, define it clearly, and then explain why. And that's the only way that you can actually evaluate whether or not that this belief is justified.
Yeah.
But if you can't ever get to the why, it's still important to know what people believe, because beliefs inform people's actions, and those actions have consequences.
Yeah, it's like one thing that we usually have to explain during this program is that a lot of believers want to call us up and try to tell us what it is that we believe or what we're saying, and we have to say, look, we can only respond to, as atheists, to the God claims that we get from believers. You want to tell me that a God exists? Fine. Describe this God to me, explain this God to me, and explain why you believe in that particular God, what your reasons are. I'll listen to what you have to say, and only after I've done that can I evaluate, you know, the validity of your beliefs or lack of.
Unfortunately, that leads some people to conclude that atheists believe nothing, which
Yeah,
is kind of
it's not
bizarre.
the same thing as nihilism.
I don't have any beliefs in the God claims. I believe plenty of other things, and those beliefs are based, I try to base my belief on evidence and reason.
So let me try to build my argument maybe a little bit. So atheist is someone who has no belief in a God, right? But I think that's not important. Important is why they have no belief. And the reason why they have no belief is because they reject all of the theistic claims for the existence of God, right?
That's the reason.
So
That's the reason that some people are atheists. Yeah, not every atheist is an atheist for rational reasons.
Okay, but let's say I accept this definition as an atheist, someone who claims that the theistic arguments are basically wrong or meaningless.
Okay.
That they haven't met the theistic claims have not met their burden of proof.
Yes. But in that case, an agnostic is someone, if we define it similarly, an agnostic is someone who says some of the theistic claims could actually be correct, could actually explain the existence of God.
There could be evidence for a God.
Well, they're addressing different questions. One's about what you believe, and one's about what you know.
Yeah.
So, like, an atheist is, you know, one type of atheist, because as I mentioned, not all atheists are atheists for the same reason. But I'm an atheist because the theistic claims haven't met their burden of proof. I'm agnostic about the actual question. Theism and atheism address the claim a God exists, some God exists. They don't address the proposition or the two possibilities that either a God exists or no gods exist. That's different. We only ever address the one claim, a God exists. Much like in a courtroom, we only ever address the question of guilt. The jury doesn't vote on innocence. It's either guilty or not guilty. And you might believe that they're innocent, but you might not. But you've had to vote not guilty for reasons of evidence. So that's where the atheist thing is. The agnostic is answering a different question if they're answering anything. Because if you ask, do you believe a God exists, then your answer must be yes or no, unless your claim is that you're just not aware of what you actually believe. The agnostics are trying to say, no, I don't believe, but I don't believe that we're talking about the intellectual agnostic, position here. No, I don't believe, but I don't want to say that I don't believe, because if I say that I don't believe, then I get labeled as an atheist. That's what's going on.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks.
A very nice explanation.
Thanks
Thanks very much for calling. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So it's about 8.5 minutes left in the show. Oh, 9 minutes left in the show.
Yeah, we got a little bit.
Yeah, 8:55, 54. We could just count down the clock for the rest of the show, not take any other callers.
Oh, that would be so trolling.
Like it would be on par with a lot of other public access television. But as the consistent winner of Best Public Access Television Show in Austin, we strive to do a little better. So we're going to go to Chris in Ohio. How you doing?
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Can I talk about the word theory?
Oh, of course.
There's a handful of English words in the English dictionary that if you look up, you'll see that their multiple definitions are in opposites of one another. They're diametrically opposite. For example, the verb to dust, that can mean to add dust or to subtract dust. Overlook is a great example. Overlook can mean to not see anything. Oh, I overlooked that. I'm sorry. It can also mean to stand on a mountain and look down and overlook everything.
You've written all this down, haven't you?
Yeah, are you prepping for yuck yucks? Because I'm pretty sure some of these bits have been done.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The word theory fits into this situation because it has conflicting definitions. It can mean idle speculation, pure conjecture. It's my theory it's going to be an interesting day. It's the layman's way. But there's the scientific and the mathematical definition, which is the opposite, which is a hypothesis that has stood the test of time. Albert Einstein's two theories and the theory of evolution. When a scientist uses the word theory, they are denoting something that they believe to be true. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So when a person in the public domain, like Pat Robertson, who's really not that bright, and you've got, Ron Paul, who's really bright, and they're both in the public domain, going around saying, it's just a theory, evolution is just a theory. I suggest that they are using the less rigorous definition to justify their claim that it's just a theory.
Yes.
Right, so it's up to the job of the scientist to delineate the definition. The moment the scientist opened up his mouth and said string theory, he abandoned the rigorous definition, and now he's using the word to mean idle speculation.
You're
String theory
really
is mathematical masturbation. There are no measurements, right? No measurements with string theory, correct?
I'm just letting you go because you seem to be really passionate about saying things that are.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me vent. Really, I do.
You're almost done venting, especially if you go back to Ron Paul.
But anyway.
I'm not going to go back to Ron Paul. I'm saying that this is the scientist's fault.
No.
The moment they opened up their mouth and said string theory, they abandoned their definition.
I agree with you that in that case, the confusion over theory exists. It is not the scientist's fault. There may be scientists who contributed.
It is definitely the scientist's fault because they need to delineate.
You're done.
Yeah.
It is not the scientist's fault. There are scientists who have contributed to this confusion over the term, and there are laymen who have contributed to this confusion over the term. Maybe we need a better term. But part of this comes down to dictionaries aren't authorities that define words. They are, they describe usage, and there are two usages of it. There's a number of different words like that, as you pointed out. I find it, I understand that you're passionate about this and you'd prefer that we were more careful with our terminology. But as long as there are buffoons out there who still think we live on a flat frickin' earth and deny the fact of evolution, I'm pretty sure that trying to get them to use the right word when they're talking about it is kind of a secondary issue. But thanks for calling.
Yeah. There is a very lucrative creationism industry that also makes damn sure that the scientific understanding of what the word theory means is not understood by the general public.
I love that, it's the scientist's fault. Hello, there are scientists.
I've seen the movie Flock of Dodos, and one of the points that movie makes is, which is a very fun documentary to watch, but it's that in terms of the whole winning hearts and minds and communicating to the great unwashed sort of thing, the scientific community has somewhat tripped up on that. They don't seem to be as good communicators as the Pat Robertsons.
But the scientific community isn't perfect. And
that's true.
So,
and so
it's the scientist's fault. You're exaggerating. You're overreaching. Look that one up too.
Alrighty.
Eric in Columbia, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Oh,
good. Hey,
not bad.
Listen, I stumbled on your show about a week ago or so, and I watched several episodes on YouTube. I absolutely love it. So I was
Thanks
really
so much.
excited to get a chance to call in. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. I don't have as much energy as the last guy. So
Well, that's fine. We're winding down. You've got like 2 minutes.
He
I
wore us out.
apologize.
Yeah, I tell you, boy.
all right. Well, I'll try to make this quick. Basically, I'm a Christian, and but I didn't call to talk about or to argue about Christianity or not. What I wanted to bring up was, I guess recently, about a month ago or so, I discovered, much to my horror, that a large part of the Christian community still embraces young Earth creationism, and it's not like I used to think that it was a fringe group of old Baptists that used to still buy into this, but I could not believe that I actually had a friend of mine that was my age trying to convert me to believing into this stuff. Just the other day.
That the Earth was created after the invention of beer. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
No, yeah,
it's. I think that we don't really move in those circles much anymore. But I guess the degree to which the very vocal and very media savvy, biblical literalist, fundamentalist, arch-conservative wing of Christianity is sort of pushing out we're a bit more liberal. We're not biblical literalists. We understand that science makes sense. That group of Christians are kind of being steamrolled, and so it's sort of up to you to kind of stand up to those the extremists and the nut jobs in your own community.
I can also say, and I apologize, Eric. I don't mean to just straight on go attacking your beliefs. I can tell you why this is, and it's because there are a number of Christians who have come to the understanding that if you don't hold to a literalist view of the Bible, you have no foundation at all. You cannot have salvation without the fall, and the fall requires a literal understanding of Genesis. That's their take on this. And the modern liberal and moderate theists who want to accept science and say, okay, science has come to understand how species evolved and all this other stuff, but we're going to try and work God in there somewhere. That is the exact opposite of science. That is starting with a conclusion and working towards it, and they are jettisoning the very critical aspects of the Genesis story, and that is the fall. If there was no fall, there was no sin, there was no reason for this substitutionary atonement. It all hinges on that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've heard that exact argument before, and basically, the whole idea of you have to take the Bible all or none, and
So that's what the young earthers tell you. Right?
And I went with
right,
none.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I was absolutely horrified that my daughter, she's 5, went to a vacation Bible school. I presume you guys are familiar with VBS.
Oh, yes.
Some of us actually like VPS.
I went to a few, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, she came home like the first day of VBS with an Answers in Genesis curriculum. And I about had a freak out. I'm serious. And so I went down to the church the following day and pulled her out of it. So,
well, good for you.
Well, that's a good thing. Thumbs up.
I'm as much. Oh, we're out of time. They're putting the credits up. I appreciate your call, and as much as I'd like to, bang on people for believing bad things, at least I must encourage people when they jettison the bad things. Thanks so much for calling. Thanks to everybody who made the show happen.
It.
All the guests from everywhere.
Thanks to our audience
from Frisco and Australia, and
yes,
we'll see you in a week.
Global group
Russell
here.
will be here.
He will, indeed.
Ciao.
I missed it.